Welcome back to All Things Creepy. I'm your host, Micah James. And this week I have for you 3 different ritual creepypastas. Now, I know I've done this genre of creepypasta in the past, but back when creepypastas were really big, from the late 2000s to the mid 2010s, this was my favorite genre of creepypasta. So I wanted to share a few more. So as usual with these creepypasta episodes, they will be linked in my show notes in case you want to read the pastas for yourself or even see what some of the authors have written as well. So with that being said, let's dive into these pastas. Pasta number 1 is Hunter's Log, written by Interceptor 98. It was a cold summer morning on all accounts. Of course, when you live in northern England, almost every summer morning is a cold one. I suppose I should explain myself. Forgive me if I'm not very good at this, but it pays to be quiet in my line of work. I'm a ghost hunter. Not Ghostbuster-esque, complete with backpack and vacuum cleaner, but a sort of minor necromancer. I use magic to help the dead sleep. However, my work can often be quite dangerous, and can involve dealing with highly treacherous spirits, and such I have decided to keep a journal of sorts, that if any people come across a spirit and cannot do away with it, they may consult my notes and learn from my life. Which brings us back to that cold summer morning in a small town on the North Yorkshire moors. I stood on a hillside overlooking the town on a small footpath. I had felt the call from my car as I drove down a narrow country lane on my way to a job down in Birmingham. It was not like when I usually feel a spirit. If a spirit is within a few meters, you can usually feel it, reaching into you, trying to take your essence, to balance its absence with your presence. But this was more. This specter reached beyond that mark, thousands of meters. It called to me. It spoke my name, reached into my mind and heart, pulling up my darkest memories. I was jarred from these visions only by the sound of my car smashing into a fence. I had slowed down to attempt to find the ghost, but had still been traveling at around 50 miles per hour when I crashed. I was lucky to be alive. As I clambered out of the car, I felt it again, calling, and I realized this was not an average ghost. It was not simply powerful, but malevolent. It sought to harm me, or at least drive me away, for it had not yet the strength to withstand me. I looked where the call had come from and saw a tiny hamlet nestled in the valley beneath me. I spotted a footpath and began my descent. When I reached the town, all was quiet. I needed to find the spectre and quickly, but first I needed to find something of great power. Ghosts, like fires, need 3 things to survive: will, as it is not, or at least not in all cases, a matter of soul-seeking vengeance. Sometimes a ghost lingers simply because the individual does not want to die, or has a job still to do. If a person is strong-willed, then anyone can become a ghost. Essence is the second thing. Being a soul is all very good, but without essence you cannot manifest at all, ever. I once met a ghost out in Kent whom I shall not name for fear of reprisals. He was reasonable enough at the time, but that was because I acted like I had not seen what he was. He was a ghost who had gathered enough essence to reconstitute himself as a physical form. He was, to all intents and purposes, human. I lacked the power to banish him, and he was causing little harm, so I left him be. But thirdly, and arguably most importantly, a ghost needs faith. The old gods, according to the books I have read, were originally ghosts that gained enough essence to reconstitute themselves, had enough will to maintain a form, and wield such a great power, and had the belief of millions. I once met a remnant of Cernius, the Celtic horned god of the hunt, and he confirmed before I banished him to the next world that he had once been human. This spirit I felt sat upon the threshold of godhood, and the fact it had attacked me for simply entering its sphere of influence marked it as an enemy, a powerful enemy, but an enemy all the same. What I needed was an item with a large amount of faith attached to it. However, it cannot be a religious relic. They are tied to one of the new gods, who are, please don't hate me, simply the ghosts of prophets. The Christian God, for example, is literally Jesus, and they are both literally a holy ghost. The Islamic God is simply the spirit of Muhammad, peace be upon him. It had to be a superstition. The best place to find out about local myths is generally the pub, so I set off there. The pub was empty, hardly surprising at 9 a.m., but the barman stood shaking behind the bar. I approached him and with all my conviction demanded to know all of the town's superstitions. He turned to me and whispered, in the voice of a man who was beyond frightened, a man who had not slept for fright for several days. He mumbled something about the clock tower lady. Now, as a practitioner of magic, I had a few tricks up my sleeve. This man clearly had the sight, and not just a touch of it, but sight by the bucket load. I reached into his mind. The spell is one that I would only ever use in the direct circumstances. I saw so much that I should not have seen. I saw him, through his own eyes, say his first word. I felt the euphoria of his first kiss, the pain of his first heartbreak. I saw the day his father beat his mother to within an inch of her life, then drove off into the night, never to return. All this and more crossed my mind in a handful of seconds. Then I learned the tale of the Chime Lady. She was the daughter of a pastor who had supposedly been in the clock tower with her lover when her father had discovered her in the act of intercourse with her boyfriend. In his fury, he threw the boy down the tower and after beating his daughter senseless, hung her using the rope that was used to ring bells in the tower. She did not stay dead, though. She had haunted the town for over 800 years, growing in power. Exorcisms had been attempted and she had rebuffed them all. Eventually the town abandoned it and left the ghost to her business. This man had seen her and he had no doubt used this to help tourism. No lack of faith then. The church had been in use since then, and collecting essence would have been no problem because of this, and her will was evidently in the extreme. Her ghostly form had apparently driven the father to hang himself from the same rope. Then I came to the love stone. His mind was hazy about this, but it was apparently a stone under the bridge that if you sat upon it, you would meet your true love within a year. At the time, I had no way of knowing what it was. I had simply seen it in his mind, and only for a handful of seconds before being thrown out violently by a will that was not his own. The Chime Lady was within him. She screamed, using him, and every bottle, every glass, every window shattered. But it was too late. I had my weapon, and it was within touching distance. I ran as fast as I could. The sky had clouded over and a storm had begun. The clouds falling above the church, falling up, is the only way to describe it. They were being pulled upwards and energy was gathering in the gap, making the spirit more powerful. To finish gathering the essence it needed, I realized then and there that it would intended to devour the entire town. Chime Lady, by my reckoning, had been a sorcerer before her death, and a powerful one at that. I managed to get to the bridge without further incident. The ritual was taking up the majority of her attention, but we were both rushing to get what we needed. As such, I took a chip of the rock as the whole thing was too large to carry. I fear the ghost hunters of tomorrow as people become less superstitious by the day. I had the stone, or at least part of it, and could feel the saturation of an eternity of faith. It would serve as a powerful focus. The ghost most likely had used a blood sacrifice to power its ritual. That would mean that it had either possessed the victim, dangerous but not as bad as the alternative, or it had manifested, meaning it would not be as easy to defeat as a simple incantation in the forgotten language of the Fae folk. I ran back through the streets and came under attack from a swarm of birds. Ravens that shrieked and ran their claws at me, cutting and shrieking. One managed to rip a chunk of my ear off and flew into the night. One took the end of my left pinky. After that, I screamed a curse at them, a Fey folk spell that created a barrier that drove the souls of all things within a small radius out of their bodies. The birds fell, their souls escaping into the sky, their physical essence being absorbed into the eye of the storm, that gaping maw that had opened above the church. I realized that if I killed anything, it would ultimately feed the spirit, and with that thought, I rushed to the church. I had expected the altar to be shattered with the blood of the sacrifice, but it was not. In fact, the entire ground floor was still, the pews were silent, and the candles were unburned. I pulled out my tome of spells, and as I did so, the spirit struck. It invaded my mind, trying to force me to break. Bend to your knee, it screamed in my mind over and over again. In my mind, I was outside of my body, and I watched as a strikingly beautiful young woman held my forehead and pushed me towards the floor, pushing me to my knees, where she would break me, obliterate my mind, rip me into 1,000 pieces, and use my magical essence to complete her ritual. I would not allow it. I could not. I would like to say that it was the weight of the lives in my hands that empowered me, but it was the weight of my own mortality that kept me alive. I watched in my mind's eye as I stood up and forced the ghost from my mind. It was her scream that let me know where she was. I ran towards the clock tower where the bell had begun to chime. I ran to the foot of the stairs and saw the puddle of blood. If I was quick, I would be able to stop the birth of a god. I climbed the stairs, and as the rope of the bell rose and fell, I could see the form of a young woman hanging from the rope. Her throat had been cut, and the blood had been pooling on the ground floor. Again, a shooting pain flew through me, but I was too close now. Achmin Vayan. I shan't stop in Faye, I cried. As I reached the top floor, the spirit became desperate, attempting to throw me down the stairs, exploiting old fears, calling up the departed that I had known when they breathed. But I would not stop, not for the world at this. I reached the ritual site. I claimed it as my own first, using my own blood on the candles the spirit had already placed there. The elder forces, my name for whatever it is that truly created our world, will only engage if you speak the tongue of a magical people. For me, Fae. For Arabic ghost hunters, it is commonly Jinn. You must also make a blood offering, generally your own, but any will do. And finally, faith must be there again. You must believe it will work, and you must have something else other people believe in. The spirit could no longer harm me. I was beyond all known magic, beyond life, beyond death, and beyond the reach of the gods, old or new. You never speak the forces, but will them or it to act in the way you would have them act. And if all has been done well, then they will do as you bid them. If not, then you must simply hope you have not offended them, or they will not just kill you, but destroy you. I woke up on the floor of the church a few hours later. The presence was not gone, but confined to the rock I now held in my hand. It was over. As I sit here typing this account, I cannot help but wonder what happens to those who cross, and what happens to the ghosts that just vanish. These are questions I doubt I will ever answer. I hope one day I find out for myself. As for the Chime Lady, she lives on in all her glory within the rock that sits in my desk as a paperweight. If only I could convince her to speak to me, I can learn so much. Story number 2 is The Man on the Milk Carton. There is no author that I could find, but if someone does know, please reach out to me and I will give credit where credit is due. On any February 29th, leap year, Look at the photo of a missing person on a milk carton. The picture will be of an old man who looks like a murderer. Whatever you do, don't call the number on the carton on the same day you look at the picture, or else a voice on the other end will tell you that you're going to die. The next February 29th of the next leap year, at the exact time of calling the number 4 years ago, you will die of a heart attack immediately. Instead, go to the last place the man was seen at after dark when the place has closed. Make sure you remember the last place you know you were seen at and not just the last place you can remember being seen at, as when you get to the location, a new voice will ask you where you were last seen. Naming the wrong place will cause an intimidating black figure to come at you so fast that it's almost floating. Using its right hand, which is a jagged black knife, it will tear you limb from limb and you will not die until you are completely mutilated. If you name the right place, the same figure will walk out of the shadows towards you. Do not flee or show emotion, or you will suffer the same fate at the hand/sword of the figure. Instead, stay still with little to no expression on your face, and the approaching figure will ask you in a raspy voice, "What power do you desire?" Only tell it you want invisibility. Any other power will backfire, resulting in a horrible death. For instance, heat vision will overheat within your body until you either explode or melt from the inside. Even the ability to fly, on your first flight, your body will begin to go so fast that the altitude will rip you to shreds. When you tell the figure you want invisibility, you will begin to feel dizzy and eventually faint. You will wake up in the exact spot you first saw the man on the milk carton. However, the picture on the milk carton will now be of a little girl. Now, whenever you snap your fingers, you will turn invisible. However, never stay invisible for more than an hour, or your soul will forever be trapped in the picture on the milk carton, manifested as your younger self. And on the next February 29th, on the exact time you woke up with your ability to turn invisible, you'll take the figure's place. And the picture on the milk carton will be of you as an old man. You will only be free when someone gains your invisibility and time comes for him to take your place as the man on the milk carton. Alright, and finally, I am almost semi-confident to call this a classic ritual creepypasta, and that is the Man in the Fields ritual, and it was written by Rot the Mayor, and it seems like it was originally uploaded on June 28th of 2014. This ritual has been passed down throughout the centuries. It originates from the British Isles during the Middle Ages, where it was viewed as devil worship by Puritans and a way to protect your home by those who know what was really standing in the fields was not the devil. If completed successfully, the ritual will ensure you 1 year of safety, physical, fiscal, and or mental, depending on the events that occur during it. You will need a house in the countryside, preferably with a field of crops out back. Technically, all that's required is a large backyard. The larger the better, but success has only come from houses in the countryside. A candle. Attempting to use a flashlight, cell phone, or any other electronic source of light will be unsuccessful, causing the light source to flicker and die after only a few seconds. This is why either a candle, an oil lamp, or any sort of non-electrical illumination is recommended. A crucifix, I'll explain why later, and a watch or clock to carry around with you. Again, cell phones will not work during the ritual. To begin the ritual, make sure it is late enough for no one around to be outside, and make sure that the sun has set. The being the ritual is based around will not appear if anyone other than the summoner is around to detect its presence. The earliest successful summon was at 9 o'clock. Light your candle, go out into your yard and whisper 7 times, "But who will scare the crows away?" while facing the house. On the 7th whisper, you should hear from behind you, "That's not your biggest problem." Walk back to the house without looking back. As soon as you reach the house, get inside and close the door. Now, the ritual begins. Everything in your house that can open has. Take your crucifix into a room with only one door. Close the door and leave it there. That will be your safe room in case the ritual goes wrong. Make sure all doors, cupboards, cabinets, and whatever else that can open is closed in there. If he gets into your safe room, you are doomed. Your goal is to close everything that is open before your watch reaches midnight. This sounds easy in description, but think about it. Every bag, every door, every window, every container in your house has just opened. The challenge isn't closing them all, it's remembering them all. As you make your way through your darkened house, you will notice that out of the corner of your eye, you will be able to see a man dressed in simple farmer's clothes. His skin is ash gray. Don't look at him, and whatever you do, don't look directly into his eyes. But don't be afraid of him. This is not the man in the fields. He is merely a herald, a referee of sorts, to make sure that you are closing every container. He will be following you, but will not get in your way. Make sure not to look out into your backyard. If you do, you will notice that there is a scarecrow that wasn't there. Its head is a cow's skull, and its limbs are impossibly long versions of a human being's arms and legs. While the skin on them is pale, they are not skeletal. The only thing that is missing is a head. If you fail the ritual or do not reach your safe room in time, it will take yours. The reason I was telling you not to look out the backyard is that when you notice the scarecrow, he will notice you. He will then begin to get off his post. This is the man in the fields. If you don't look at the backyard, don't see the post and the scarecrow, you'll have until midnight to complete the ritual. You are 100% sure that everything in your house that can open has closed. Make your way to bed and go to sleep. For exactly 1 year, you will have complete and total safety in everything you do, depending on when you started the ritual. If you started it 3 hours from midnight, you will only be completely physically safe. A lot of people have used this to elongate their lives past where they would normally end. People like cancer patients and the elderly. If you start 2 hours from midnight, you will not only be physically safe, but financially safe for a year. You could quit your job and still never have a need for money. Either you win the lottery or people just feel compelled to give you things for free. However, you will need to set up a plan for the end of the year, as your safety will wear off then and you will lose all the money you have won. Make sure to either set up a business or make some smart investments. If you started the ritual 1 hour from midnight and somehow managed to finish it, highly unlikely, you will be completely and totally safe for 1 year. None of your actions will ever have any negative consequences. I tell you not to do anything immoral, but if you're going to go through your entire house in 1 hour and somehow manage to close all the boxes, doors, windows, cupboards, bags, cabinets, and drawers, then you can do whatever the hell you want. If you did look out at the backyard, if you saw the man in the fields, you'll not get any of this, not even if you finish the ritual. The man in the fields will get down off his scarecrow post. He will look at you. He will begin sprinting. You have a minute at most to get to your safe room. Run inside and lock it tight and double check to see if everything is closed inside. You do not want him getting in. You'll have to endure him scratching and clawing at the door, shrieking threats and promises of mercy if you open it. Whatever he says or does, do not open the door. There is no circumstance in which you should leave your safe room to confront the man in the fields. Good luck and stay safe.